To talk about my anti-redemption arc stance, I have to bring out my infamous wall of brooding boys. I made a video 2 years ago where I said that this is my least favorite trope. I hate all of these characters. I hate all of their storylines. It is so overdone. They are all in the same box for me. And people 2 years ago got in the comments and were like, no, this character is so special and interesting. They're not. A year ago, I talked about it again. People got mad again. Please save your comments. I don't want to hear it. I can't do it. In my video that this is linked to, I talked about Snape and the obsession with redemption arcs that a lot of people have. And I said that I feel like redemption arcs are for children's media. As you can see, all of these examples are from media that is meant for very young people, right? Except for, I guess, Anakin doesn't have a redemption arc. He is evil. He goes full baddie. But I respect when characters are actually evil, right? I think that the art of being morally gray has been lost. And unfortunately, so many morally gray characters in fiction today, or in fiction back then when I was a kid, have to have these moments where they're like, no, actually, I'm good. So it sort of removes the accountability and it removes the arc or the narrative weight of all of the stuff that they've done before this, right? A lot of people will point to Zuko as being one of the best redemption arcs ever. And I'm like, Zuko was still evil as of the season 2 finale. I just rewatched the show last year or 2 years ago, so it's very fresh. Zuko was still evil as of the season 2 finale. He turns on the gang and then he starts helping them out halfway through season 3. He has 8 episodes. I counted. He has 8 episodes of being good. That is not the best redemption arc that's ever been shown on television. I'm sorry. That is 8 episodes of him helping out Aang and them traveling around together, Aang suddenly becoming a master of firebending. Obviously you can't blame the show. They ran out of time and we didn't have to see every single second of Aang learning to firebend. But don't spit on my leg and tell me it's raining saying that this is the best redemption arc you've ever seen. This is a redemption arc for children. He had 8 episodes to do a heel turn and people act like it changed their lives. Draco famously does not get a redemption arc. He throws a wand to Harry in the final battle because Harry is actually finally gonna defeat Voldemort, and then him and his family skulk off. He doesn't actually take any accountability or face any punishment for all the bad things that he did throughout the series. Snape doesn't really have a redemption arc. He's sort of but there's no great moment where it was he had this redemption and he was the best person all along. And I understand that there is a gray area, right? No character is going to be fully good or fully bad. I think that's sort of what we got with Draco, where he necessarily didn't fully become good and start helping them out and was all of a sudden a member of the trio, right? He had a very realistic thing where he said, okay, I'm going to be good for 1 second and then I'm going to go back to sort of doing whatever I want. Snape also sort of lived in this gray area, but the way that fans talk about him, you would think that he was the hero of the entire series, right? He was Dumbledore, he was Harry, he did everything himself. The books are about him. And I'm I read the books. I know what I'm talking about. He was skulking around in the background, terrorizing people for 6 books and then did 2 good things. I've also talked about a sort of religious aspect to this where I think that because America is so dominated by Christianity, a lot of people think that you can get forgiveness just because you ask for it, right? And whenever we have racism scandals or cancel culture scandals, I'm well, just because a person apologized doesn't mean that we have to forgive them, right? You can do a bad thing and be held accountable and be punished for doing the bad thing, right? Just because you want to be good doesn't necessarily make you good. The only redemption arc that I respect is that of Angel from Buffy and Angel, the titular role. He has 5 seasons of working on himself and atoning, right? That is one of the differences in popular conceptions of forgiveness, right? Forgiveness, you ask for, it is not granted automatically. Atoning is when you work for forgiveness. He spent 100 years, or in our real time, he spent 5 seasons working to be forgiven for being a vampire that took down dozens of people, hundreds of people, and committed atrocious acts. But he understood that he wasn't going to be forgiven just because he wanted to be, right? He fully internalized that and spent his entire life, his entire afterlife, his immortal life, working to be forgiven because he knew that it's not a matter of just asking or doing one good thing the way that Draco did. Spike sort of has this too when he has a soul. He just doesn't have as much time to get it. And I also hate Spike because he's on the wall of brooding boys. So I don't consider him ever. Whenever I talk about Zuko, people will say he was just a kid. He was doing what his family wanted. Okay. And he can be held accountable for that, right? It is not out of the realm of possibility that people will dislike a character for all of the bad things that they did, right? And it's not me being simplistic and discounting his redemption arc. I just don't think the redemption arc was that well done. I want to see work, I want to see punishment, and I want to see people actually taking responsibility for themselves. I don't think that you can say, well, I feel bad about what I did and I'm sorry, and not have actual repercussions for your actions. I apologize if that is a hot take.